morning, everybody. I'm Melissa Nielsen with Waldorf Essentials, and I hope you are having a wonderful year so far. It's only the 8th today, and so you've just started into this new year. Hopefully you are still keeping in mind the goals that you talked about last week, and I hope that you are just feeling good so far. I hope you had a wonderful Three Kings Day. If you celebrated, we did. It was kind of slow, but it was nice and just nice. It was nice. Very nice. So, and we were singing the 12 Days of Christmas on Three Kings Day, which was really kind of funny to do with my children. But I wanted to talk today a little bit about in our house we have my youngest is an April birthday, and a late April birthday at that. So April birthdays are kind of problematic in the school setting. They often just push them through because they don't want to fuss with it. But that's not what Steiner said. And so I'm pretty I go back to look at those things that he said quite often. And I'm a huge, huge proponent of really, really, really evaluating your children. And so because we can do that at home, we have that luxury. So what we have done, like I said, she has an April 22nd birthday. And with that, I really have been watching her. So if you'd asked me a year ago, I was still very much on the fence about whether or not we would start something in January or whether we would just push on to next fall. And this year, here I am. About November, I really started deciding, okay, no, we're going to push through with this. She seems like she's ready. So what signs did I look at? I definitely looked at all the first grade readiness signs. I looked at her hands. I looked at this whole dealie here, whether or not she's touching the top of her ear. Or how far over there she's getting. I looked at what her coordination was. I looked at just things like that I really wanted to be able to understand and see whether or not she was ready. And so with that, like I said, I did a lot of sort of evaluation of her. She's been begging to read. So I get it when moms say to me, "Oh, but my 5-year-old is begging to read." I go, "I know, I've got one of those." So all this time I've said to her, "Honey, mommy wants to be the one to teach you to read. And when I do that, it's going to be at the right time. So if you teach yourself between now and then, it's okay. But that I'm not going to teach you until," and I, sort of gave her a date. And so what we did is the end of November, we started knitting. I really wanted to see how she would handle knitting and how she would handle maybe potential frustration and how I would handle her handling potential frustration, because it's different with every child. And I wanted it to be a good experience. So when I got out the knitting needles, because we made knitting needles, but when we were doing the whole time, and I got out mine and I sat down next to her, the entire time, my expectation was that this may or may not work. It may be a great way for us to get started, but we may not be really going down this road of actually knitting at this time, because I didn't know what she would be doing. Now, she's done a ton of handwork. A lot of people talk about her handwork all the time. So we post about her handwork because she's done a lot of plastic canvas work. She's done, all this embroidery work for a young child. Nothing like with a needle and regular material, but definitely some bigger, burlap and, like I said, plastic canvas and some of those big pre-stamped cross stitches and things like. So she's done a lot of handwork. She loves handwork. She thrives with handwork. But I didn't know how she would do with knitting. And, it's definitely a much more fine motor skill. So we did the whole thing. We made knitting needles. I wanted her to have that experience just like we do, in first grade at the beginning when we start in September. And for me, I really just wanted to see how she was going to handle things. She took to knitting. Wow. So anybody who has seen our blog post, you saw her first knitting sample. We did a blog post on this very topic just last week. I just wanted to follow up with the video as well, just so that you can hear me say it, and then I can take any questions that you might have sort of along the way. So, knitting went beautifully. we just worked on just a simple square. So mom's always asked me, how do I get them to knit through that first little project? I keep the first little project as simple as possible. And like even before we do a flute case or before we do a stuffed gnome or anything like that, I keep their project as simple as possible. So we had like 10 stitches, and she just made a little blanket for one of her dolls. Very simple. And now it's like morphed into, like, she's made a little scarf out of it, and so it's only about this long and about this wide. And we use about size 9 needles is about what they come out to. Size 9 to 10. When you make them yourself, we just use dowels. We sand them down. We sharpen them. She helps with the sanding. Then we oil them together or wax them together. We do all of those steps together. That's all part of this process. She knows the spinning process. She knows where yarn comes from. If she had not, we would have gone through and talked about that. But because that's very much a part of her life, because I'm a knitter, she already knew that part. So we did read the Farmer Brown Shears the Sheep book. She had a good time with that. She's dyed yarn recently. So we've done all of these other things sort of in preparation for, because that's kind of like part of her life. Like I said, we dye yarn often. If anybody saw the cute little striped sweater that I made, she helped in that dyeing. So it's part of her life. So if it's not, I would definitely go through and do those things. You know, I would dye yarn together. And you can do it really easily with Kool-Aid. We talk about it on our blog. And make your own knitting needles. I would do all of these things and prep for that soft start, because you really want to be able to get them going with knitting. I wanted that to be a very good experience with her. And so, like I said, I took my time. And but she took to it beautifully. That was in November, end of November. And I thought, all right, well, here we go. We're gonna start this. Now, as much as I love our curriculum. I love our curriculum. I think it's laid out very beautifully. I think that it it has all the stories, all the Grimms, everything in it. I am not using it. I would use it if we were going to start in the fall, but I wanted something for this soft start because I don't know how it's going to go. And so I wanted to not feel bound to doing it the way I would normally do it. I wanted to be able to let it sort of unfold. And if it takes off, I think that's great. If it takes off and she runs with it and she does, sort of like finish this whole reading process and really get going, then next January we will start our second grade curriculum. I will still be making sure she gets plenty of Grimm's fairy tales. She will still get all of the form drawing from our curriculum. She will still get obviously all of the math from our curriculum. So we're definitely still using elements of it, but we are not using it wholly. So I'm going to answer a question here. Put my daughter in preschool and decided to homeschool her this year. What should have been senior kindergarten? She already knows her. This has nothing to do with what they know. This has everything to do with where they're going and sort of where I want to see her, because she will be 7 in April. So I want to really emphasize that when we're talking about the Waldorf curriculum and a new child in first grade, it has zero to do with what they already know. Zero. Because Waldorf is about the right information at the right time. We want to make sure they get the right information at the right time. And the right information isn't the academic stuff. It's the story content. So we want to make sure they get the right story content, at least in those early years. So, and the reason being with not starting first grade until they are 7 or nearly 7 is because the curriculum is laid out each year to match them for their age. So we don't want to start a 5-year-old if they know all their letters in first grade until they're almost 7 or 7. So it does not matter. If she already knew everything, it wouldn't matter. We would still be doing the exact same. We wouldn't be doing the slow start. If I knew she already knew everything, she already knew how to read, or we were close to that, then we would probably just jump into this and just go directly through our curriculum. But again, not until she's 7 or nearly 7. So she will be 7 in April, and we are now at 6 years, 8 months. I would not do this with 6 years, 6 months, or anybody younger than that. Excuse me. It just March tends to be my hey, let's think about waiting. Um, Cut off, especially if it's towards the end of March, and especially if it's a little boy. Little boys tend to be so much bouncier than little girls and need so much more movement. Not always, of course. In this case, I have the bounciest little girl ever. Some of that has to do with her, so she's got some sensory processing stuff going on. So there again, we're sort of going slow for that reason. Okay, I want to keep reading these comments here. I just want to make sure that I made that clear, that this does not have anything to do. I do not want anybody watching this who has a child that is younger than 6, and I'm saying 6, almost 7. I do not want anybody to think that that means that I'm like, hey, thumbs up, go ahead and soft start first grade. No, ma'am. This is for somebody who's got like an April birthday, or their child might be ready but not quite. That's the soft start. That's what I really want to make sure that I get that across. This is not for a child that's younger than that. If you want to follow the Waldorf curriculum, you want to slow down and you want to wait, even if they know their information. Okay, so I'm going to finish here. Yes, get out of society and into your own space. I was just reading her comment here. I think it is really easy with what everybody else is doing in society to be like, oh no, we need to start something. Oh no. And so, you know what I tell people? I go, well, they're on when they go, oh, are they reading yet? I go, well, they're on the path. They don't have to know where they are on the path. Honestly, it's okay for you to tell somebody, butt out. It's okay for you to especially if it's like somebody that doesn't matter in your life, like the grocery store clerk or the librarian, or somebody that doesn't actually live in your home or isn't part of your family. If it's somebody that's part of your family, then you say, well, this is the method that we're using. Would you like to take the opportunity to understand about it? If you would, I would be happy to give you some information. If it's like casting pearls before swine, then don't waste your breath. Just say, I love you. I'm raising my own child. This is the way I'm doing it. And you can think that it's wrong all you want, but this is what I'm doing. And so when people say, is she reading it? I'll say, oh, she's on the path to that. Because she is. She's been on the path to that ever since she started looking at books when she was 3 by herself. So, it's journey. And we sort of have, when we sort of ask each other if they're reading, or we sort of go down that path, we sort of forget that reading is a process. A lot like potty training. It's a process. You do not learn the first letter and then read every book in the library. You learn the first letter, and then you learn the second letter, and after you've learned all the letters in your language and all of, and you know what the sounds are, then you start reading. And so it's a process. It's a process. Like I said, it's just like potty training. You start with making sure they get there for the number 1, and then you making sure they get there for the number 2. It's a process. It's something that you don't and you don't really get to graduate from that process like in potty training until they can wipe their own bum. You might have a potty trained 2-year-old, but unless they can do all of the business themselves, then they're not really potty trained completely. And so it's the same with reading. As far as I'm concerned, I'm still sounding out words like every dang day. So if maybe you're way far ahead of me and you can just look at those big words and you know exactly what they are, but not me. Reading is a process. It's a process that takes time. So anyway, back to Soraya. I just wanted to make sure I got that out, and wanted to make that really clear that this is definitely for a child that is almost 7 or on that path. And like I said, if she was any later, if she was a May birthday, we would have waited until next fall. We have a son with a June birthday, and we waited until fall. So he was 7 and 2 months when we started first grade, and he has been the most delightful child when it comes to being properly placed. Definitely I've loved teaching all of my children, but he has definitely been super delightful with this, with regards to placement. He's hit everything exactly where he needed to, exactly. And it's been very beautiful to watch. So she had been a May birthday, which she was a preemie, so she was supposed to be May, which was kind of why I really teetered on whether or not this was going to even start, because she was a preemie. She was about 6 weeks early, so she would have been at the end of May, first part of June, if she had been born when she should have been. And so so I really wanted to take the time with that. So enough with that. Anyway, this is what we are using. And I will tell you exactly how I'm using this. This is a book by Reg Down, who I absolutely love. If you love the Tiptoes Lightly stories, you will like this, I think. He is a wonderful Waldorf teacher. He is, he's just a wonderful Waldorf teacher. He's a great artist and a great storyteller. And so I really liked this book. From the moment that somebody recommended it to me, I was like, I need to see that book. So I thought it was going to come tiny like the other Tiptoes Lightly books, but no, this is full color. And so how are we using it? Oh, and I want to tell you, it is available at meadowsweetnaturals.com. She's got it. Support a mom when you're doing your shopping, if you can. So before I go to Amazon, I always check and see if Pamela has it over there, because you are supporting a Waldorf family, a Waldorf homeschooling family, when you support Meadow Sweet Naturals. So meadowsweetnaturals.com would be where I would hunt for it first. So how are we using this? This book is divided up into, I can't remember how many chapters, I think 31 chapters. 31 chapters. And it goes through all of the letters. Now, I'm a firm believer in introducing all of the consonants first and then bringing the vowels. So this book goes in order, though, from A to Z. So what we will be doing is we'll be covering like 2 letters a week. And because we do a 3-day school week here in our home, it's because we have other school-ish activities on the other days. I will be covering one story, or two stories that introduce 2 letters, but I will do them both on the first day, and then we will work with the letters over the other 2 days. My reasoning for doing that is I want to make sure I get plenty of art in, and there's definitely going to be weeks when there's a vowel that we're not going to really focus a whole lot on. I will just say the sound of it, but we're not really going to focus on the vowel, because I want to get through all of the consonants, and then I'm going to bring those vowels back in. And I'm going to bring them in very much in the way that I do them in our curriculum, just because when you do that, and I would suggest, if you haven't watched our video on reading, to go back and watch our video on reading. If this is new information to you, definitely go back and watch the video that we did on reading, because it sort of goes through the whole process. But the reason why I want to bring those vowels at the end is because once they have those consonants down, and they know the sounds of them, then you can bring in that first short vowel sound, that first sound, and they're reading, like first day. So you want to be able to get to that place, and in order to do that, you've got to bring those consonants first. And that's sort of a Waldorf way to do it anyway, and I did it with all of my other kids, and it was absolutely lovely. It turned out beautifully. So again, we're doing like 2 chapters a day. We did do the prologue, which is just a little bit about Tiptoes, and the first 2 chapters on last week. So this week we will work on, like today's is the alphabet song. Now listen, I'm going to tell you, I have some poop about the alphabet song. Like, I used to hate that song. I steered clear, like as far away from the alphabet song as I possibly could with my other children. I just did. I just felt like it was just not Waldorf at all. And it probably isn't. However, Reg gives you some thoughts about the alphabet song in here that I thought were interesting, and so I sort of took them to heart. And he talked about this being a song that he knew as a kid, and so many people, at least Americans, and I'm sure there are versions in other languages, but Americans sort of like know this song. It's sort of like in our DNA, and it's very odd. And Americans, or maybe I should say English speaking people, it's sort of like in our DNA. It's just weird. You can have never sang it and you be able to sing it. And so I have steered clear of it. But he introduces it in this book, and they use it in this book. And so I thought, well, all right, I'm going to try it. So that's what we've sang it a couple of times. What's funny is Sam never sang it. Ellie never sang it, but they know it. It's like I said, I think it's in our DNA. It's kind of strange. So we're going to sing it this week. That because we're on the second set of lessons for her, and we are doing block crayon drawing. I'm mixing it up a little bit. She is an accomplished artist already at 6, and so my job is like challenging her a little bit. So we are definitely going to be doing some block crayon drawing. We are going to be definitely doing some modeling and painting as well. We have Dad teaches as well, so Dad's brushing up on some of his skills so that he's ready to to go after this with her. And we will be doing form drawing, but we're going to go slow. Right? And you go slow with form drawing anyway. You do like one a week. I'm definitely going to do one a week or less for her, as we're really getting her into understanding the difference between letters and numbers, because she is like an incredibly precocious child who watching her, I thought, well, she's probably just going to teach herself. So I just stood by. But honestly, she said to me yesterday, it is really confusing. Some of them look like letters, but I know they are numbers. And which just sort of made me chuckle, because she's always sort of been extremely fluid with which ones were letters and which ones were numbers. And so now she's recognizing them because we're talking about them. And that's really usually what happens, especially if you have a child who's not ever thought about them, not given those characters a second thought, because they are very abstract, which is what Steiner said. Steiner talked about them being abstract and how we have to bring them down to a place where they can work with them. And so it's been funny as she's been coming into the space, and it's further knowledge for me that she is getting to the place where she is ready. So again, we're going to use this soft start. I have published some of our plans already on our blog, and if you want to see more of our plans, you're welcome to. I am still using, like in our planner, I'm using the kindergarten planning pages because I'm sort of following a more kindergarten format. She's still asking for circle, so we're definitely still doing circle. We do some exercises with the copper rod every day. It helps her with her coordination. We work on some tongue twisters because she has some speech stuff going on. So we do all of those things. I am not bringing the flute until the fall, though. I am going to introduce it in the fall when she would have been in first grade, just because I think it's going to be too much to bring on right now. And so what we're doing is we're using our Music Unfolds curriculum. We're learning the songs, because that way in the fall, she'll know the songs. It'll be easier for her to get started on the flute. So we're definitely not worrying about the flute. I did do a couple of lessons in November, just sort of testing the waters. And I was like, oh no, this is the tipping point. Don't want to go over it. So I just said, we're just going to put your flute away for a little bit, and we're just going to really work on singing our voice. And she loves to sing anyway. So we're incorporating those songs into our circle time. And so I'm seeing the fluidity of that after having done it with her for a week. And so I'm feeling very good about that. I'm feeling very good about my decision to wait on the flute till the fall. And a lot of it is not just her readiness, but my lack of being willing to give her obstacles when I don't think she can handle them yet. She probably would be able to weather it. I think she would be able to, but because she has some sensory stuff going on, if she were neurotypical, I would be a little more willing to push it forward, but I see the sensory stuff in overwhelmment from her, and I don't care to do that to myself or to her, because it's not a fun day when that happens. So anyway, I also wanted to say I am going to also use these cards. These cards come from the lovely people who made the LMNOP book. And I like these cards because they have little poems on the back about each letter. So again, we're just going to use, we're not using them as like flashcards, but they're like reminders. So, gosh, remember we did the letter N last week? Do you remember what sound it made? Let me read you the poem on the back, and maybe you'll remember what sound it made. And I'm very gentle when it comes to using these. I think they're a lot of fun to sort of have them up so that she can see the letters that we're covering for the week. I usually put them on the nature table, just in a postcard holder. And I remember my son really loving that. He would rush in on Monday morning to see what letters we were covering in the week, because I will have changed it from the week before. So, we're not using the same layout for letters as we do in our curriculum, because I'm using what he's got in the book, and it goes from A to Z. But we'll still have a lot of this very same, things that we do otherwise. So I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, I am going to be doing math as well. It's easier because the math in our math book is exactly the same math that's integrated into the curriculum, but I'm going to be using our math book because it has it separated and pulled out. So I'll be using our math book instead of using it the way it's laid out in the grade 1. And I will be doing that probably not until after we get through all the letters. And she knows basic math anyways. Most children of this age know how to add, know how to subtract. It's just you're taking something and making it concrete when you're introducing those math norms. So I probably will not be bringing that part to her until after we get through the letters. But here, I have until December, or at least until November. And December is kind of a wash. December is kind of a month where I go, all right, we're trying to do some lessons. We might get 2 or 3 lessons in, but honestly, the whole month of December is a blur. I couldn't tell you what we did last December. It was just kind of a blur. Anyway, so we have until November, pretty much. We're not going to take a lot of breaks in the summer. We're going to be keeping this process up. And I know that's hard for some families. Some families really live for that long summer break. So this might not work for you if you were going to do that, or maybe you need to shorten that up and do a shorter break. There are countries that do a January to December school year, or February to December school year, and they take very few breaks. And the breaks that they do take are more like 3 and 4 weeks instead of like 3 months. And so, you can always consider that when you're looking at using an altered schedule with your children. I used a little bit of a modified schedule with my second son because he was a March birthday, and again, very bouncy. And when I say modified with him, I still did first and second, and even most of third, it seems like the same along the curriculum lines. And my ex-husband was not going to have me waiting too much. But what I did as we got deeper into the grades was I would take a couple of blocks from the previous year and attach them into September, and just sort of have a flowing of a few from last year into the next year. That way, I was able to make the topics, there we go, hit him where they needed to within the curriculum, and it was a nice flow. But where she's more later April, I'm really sort of making it a lot more pronounced for her. So anyways, I don't know, I don't see any other questions here. The other day, Facebook was playing a trick on me and not showing me any questions, but I see comments here and I don't see any others. So I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions as you're watching this on the download or watching this after, please feel free to drop me a note or, ask a question here, and I'm happy to answer it. This really is, I know it's a hard topic for a lot of people because it is very dependent in Waldorf as to when we start that first grade, because we have to look ahead. We want to make sure that each of the grades hit them sort of where they need to be. And, I sort of played around with that, even though I thought I knew better with Harry, and we ended up doing a grade like twice because I wanted him properly placed, because it just things did not match up. And some of that had to do with him having ASD, but a lot of it had to do with me rushing there with that first child that I thought I knew better, even though I had all the background. So then I backed off and I went, okay, we're going to do this the right way. So, it's definitely from lots of years of experience, not just with my own children, but with coaching with others, that I really do believe strongly that the proper placement is so much the key with this curriculum. And, if you're using a charter or you have to report to somebody, there's no reason why you can't already say that they're in X grade, whatever the social norm is. You're just going on a different path and going slower, more modified. So don't feel like you have to really conform to society. Take this opportunity as a homeschooler to do it your way. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I really hope you guys have had a great first New Year week. And I hope that The other 51 weeks that follow are also a blessing to you. And, I just hope you have a wonderful day too. So, see y'all later. Bye now.